Hello friends, Shayla here. So I am here to finally do a March wrap-up for you. So I did not end up doing a mid-month wrap-up, and that's because I didn't read a ton of books in the first half of the month. When it comes to actual physical books, I didn't read a lot. I read mostly manga this month. So in the 2 readathons that I did, I read manga. So I will leave both of those linked down below. So we have Otaku-a-thon and we have Reread-a-thon, where I read manga for those and absolutely loved and adored them. So let's go ahead and dig into the books that I read in the month of March, and then we will dig into the manga that I read. So I only have one digital book that I've read this month, and that was a release from Forever Romance, and that is Taming Her Mate. This is a shifter smutty romance where we're dealing with a girl wolf and a boy bear. And I just really liked this. I liked the dynamic with our couple. It was also very political for their clans at the same time. So it remained very, very interesting as I read it. And very often in those kind of books, it can get kind of dry. But this one really didn't to me. It kept me going. The pacing was really well done. I ended up giving it 4 stars and really enjoying it. All right, so let's start with the mass market paperbacks, shall we? So the first one that I read was When a Duchess Says I Do by Grace Burrows. This is a historical romance. This is a continuation of a series. What's the series called? Rogues to Riches. So the first book was My One and Only Duke. In this one, we're dealing with a duchess who had run away from a potential marriage prospect because she didn't want to marry him. Anyway, she ends up on the lands of this, kind of thrown to the side duke who keeps to himself. He's really shy, and things go from there. It's really interesting. It's got a decent plot to it. It does tie in the previous couple, so I do think it's best if you read My One and Only Duke before you read this one, but it's not wholly necessary. You'll just feel a little lost at the connection between certain characters. But other than that, it's a really good read, solid 4 stars, thoroughly enjoyed it. Next up, we have one that I was thoroughly surprised that I loved as much as I did, and that is Hate to Want You by Alicia Rai. I finally listened to y'all and read this, and I have no regrets. This is a angsty couples with history smutty romance, and it made my heart so stinking happy. It should not have made my heart as happy as it did. But this was a really fun read. I do think I'll pick up more Alicia Rai titles in future. And if you have more Alicia Rai recommendations specifically, let me know in the comments down below so I know where to start. And then last but not least for the mass market paperbacks is Second Chance Cowboy. I just recently finished this one. This is a Crossroads Ranch novel. I'm reading the current release. I don't remember the title of the other one that I'm currently reading. I'm like 50 pages into it. But yes, it involves this same family. So we're dealing with a family of brothers who had an alcoholic, abusive father. And as our main character, Jack, protects his brothers, it gets to a point where he is so gravely injured that they're actually taken out of the home and move into their aunt's home. When they live with their aunt, Jack meets Ava. They start a thing, and he ends up beating a kid to a bloody pulp because he was trying to rape Ava. And so he thinks he's turned into his abusive father and runs away from town. What he doesn't know at the time when he runs is that Ava is pregnant with his child. And so what brings him back to town, 10 years later, he's a lawyer, things are going good for the most part in his life. He comes back because his father's died. So he comes back, thinks he's going to set his brothers up and leave. But then he runs into Ava, finds out about his son, and everything changes. It was really well done. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Definitely check this one out. It's the first 50 pages of this were really hard for me. After that point, once they've established all the hard parts of the story, it got really good. It got really emotional. I teared up a little bit at points. It was actually very well done. So I have to give it to AJ Pine. On the crassy or classy scale, this one's definitely on the crassier side, at least language-wise. The language is really crassy. The Smexy is a bit crassy. Not too bad. But yes, in general, this one's going to have a little more language than some. So I know that some people are sensitive to that, so I want to specify that. But yes, so I did enjoy this one. I ended up giving it 3 stars just because the front of the book was so rough for me. It might end up being 3.5 in the end, but all in all, I did really enjoy it. So we've got 3 books and a collection of poems here that I'm going to talk to you about. So next up, we have Gracie's Secret, which was sent to me by my friends at Forever Romance, but it has some suspense, almost thriller-like elements to it. It feels a little more like what most people would classify a domestic thriller. There's definitely suspense and angst and a lot going on, but it is really, really good. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I think it's just really beautiful by the end. I ended up giving this 4 stars, so I do strongly recommend picking up Gracie's Secret. Next, we have the collection of poems, and that is The Mermaid's Voice returns in this one. Now, if you guys remember, the middle book in this trilogy, The Witch Burns in this one, I hated. I did not like it at all. I've unhauled it, so I can't even, hold it up for you. But I heard lots of really positive things about this particular collection, so I opted to pick it up, and I'm really glad I did. I ended up giving this collection 4.5 stars. So this is my favorite collection in this trilogy. This one is full of hope. It is full of so many beautiful things, and she also ties in other people's writing, not just her own, towards the end. And I thought it was beautifully done. I really love this beautiful Target edition with the actual mermaid tail on it, and it was just really well written. I've marked up quite a bit of this. I'm not sure if you can see it very well in the lens, but I ended up really enjoying this. I do strongly recommend picking up this particular collection of poems. Now, I don't read a lot of poetry, but what I do, I'm very particular with, and I did really enjoy this. So next up, we have Sky Without Stars by Jessica Brody and Joanne Rendell. I have a spoiler-free ramblings video about this particular book. It wasn't exactly what I was hoping it was going to be, but it was definitely not bad. It's a great space opera. It's got elements of Les Miserables in it, but I wouldn't call it a retelling. But that's my personal opinion. Having read the original source material, if you've only watched the musical, you might feel a little more that way. But going off source material, it didn't fit quite as well for me. But it was still really good. I still gave it 4 stars. I still plan on continuing the series. So know that. But yes, if you want more details and a little bit more of my ramblings, definitely check out that video. And last but not least for the book stack is A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmerer, which I gave a whopping 5 stars. I absolutely loved and adored this book for so many reasons. If you want to hear more of my spoilery thoughts, definitely check out the live show that April and I did. I will leave that linked down below for you. And it was our Tell It Again book club book for the month of March. We are both so glad this was our pick. This is our favorite read for the book club so far this year by a long shot. And we are really happy that we finally read it. This is about a girl with cerebral palsy who ends up in a Beauty and the Beast inspired story. It's wonderful. There are lots of things this retelling did right. And again, if you want more details, definitely check out that live show, but be prepared to be spoiled. It's really good though. All right, that is it for the book portion of this video. Let's move on to the manga. Let's start with the digital manga, shall we? Okay, so I ended up reading volume 2 in Can I Kiss You Every Day. I thought it was really cute. I quite liked the story in this one, and it was a good time. I really like the dynamic between our couple. I still wish the creepy stepbrother would step back and step off, but that's a personal thing. Next we have Chihaya Furu Volume 1. I don't remember if I talked about this in February or not, but I'm talking about it here anyway. Chihaya Furu is about kids who are playing this particular Japanese game where it involves cards and you throw them. It's really interesting to read. And I really enjoyed that first volume, so I definitely recommend picking it up. Next up, I read the next 2 volumes in Living Room Matsunaga-san, and this one is a really cute age gap romance. I quite like this. I really like the characters in this one. I really like everybody in the boarding house, because it's a boarding house style age gap. He is like the manager of the boarding house because he works from home, so he's there the most. And then she's a senior in high school, so it's really fun that way. The biggest thing that happened is I binge read the rest of Peach Heaven. I loved it so much. It made my smutty girl heart so happy. So you guys, just go check out Peach Heaven. If you aren't sure what it's about, let me tell you a little bit about it. So it's about this girl who is in high school. She is essentially forced to write erotica in her dead father's place to support her family financially. So she writes erotica for her family, and her mom's hospitalized, so it's just her and her younger brother at home, so she takes care of him. And what happens is this supermodel goes to her school, and she's in the nurse's office for something, I forget what, but he I think because she was up working all night and she ended up passing out, and when she wakes up, she encounters this guy getting it on with the nurse, essentially. And she puts it in one of these books, and he finds out because the description of him is too much and people find out, and so it ends up getting back to him. And so he essentially blackmails her to make him lunch every day so that he won't tell anybody. And things go from there. It's really fun. I really enjoyed the series. It falls into more of a traditional shoujo after a couple of volumes, but you still get the erotica smutty bits within it, so it's just really fun for me. I really enjoyed it, and I do recommend trying out the series. At least try out the first volume. If you're not comfortable, then don't keep going. And the guy isn't nearly as obnoxious as he seems in the beginning. So that's all I'm going to tell you about that. And that's it for the digital manga portion, other than what I read within the other 2 readathons. So again, go check out those vlogs to know what I read there. All right, so let's get going on the physical manga that I've read this month, shall we? So I've got Maid-sama, the first omnibus, which contains volumes 1 and 2. Maid-sama is about the female class president of a mostly boys' school. It used to be an all-boys school. It's recently been opened to girls, and the tuition's really cheap. So she goes there and then works at a maid cafe to help support her mom, who's a single mom, but is basically working herself to death. And so she tries to help out at home. And the popular boy at school finds out that she works at a maid cafe. He says, "I will keep your secret," and she's afraid of him telling everybody, but he continues to come to the maid cafe and to become her friend. And it's just cute and adorable and fun, and this is full of shenanigans. This feels like a very classic shoujo. There is a anime based on this, so if you're not interested in the manga, definitely check out the anime. It's a really good time. I really enjoy it. Next, I continued on in A Bride Story. So we've got volume 2 and volume 3. This is an age gap romance where our bride is 20 years old and her groom is 12. And everything is really innocent at this point. It's very well done. I really enjoy this. It is a josei series, or not josei, seinen, sorry. I said that incorrect. But I think it's very well done. It doesn't fall into some of those traditional seinen tropes that drive me crazy, where you're dealing with egotistical men who make stupid mistakes and they still get the girl in the end. That's not what's going on here at all. This is very well done. This is much more about family and family roots and family ties and family obligations. Oh, it's so good. It's a beautiful story thus far, and I look forward to continuing on with A Bride Story. I've got the first volume of Dengeki Daisy, and we're dealing with a high school girl whose brother has passed away. As he's passing away, he leaves this phone and says, "Anytime you're feeling sad, text Daisy." And at school, what happens is she breaks a window, and so she has to work with the janitor to pay for this window. But what she doesn't know is the janitor and Daisy are the same person. So he was her brother's friend. He continues to look out for her. I'm sure there's a lot more going on here, but Volume 1 was a great time, and I definitely look forward to continuing on. Next, we have Horimiya Volume 3. I'm really continuing to love my read of Horimiya. I know it gets to a point where it's not as fun, but I'm going to keep collecting until it hits that point. But I continue to enjoy it thus far. This is about, people who act one way at school and a different way outside of school, running into each other outside of school, and keeping each other's secrets and getting to know each other in the process. It's great. I thoroughly enjoy it. Highly recommend. Next, we have a fun little series that's only 2 volumes long, and that is Kenkabanko Otome Loves Battle Royale. So essentially, we're dealing with a girl who goes undercover at her long-lost twin brother's school, which is an all-boys school, and her brother is like the son of a mob boss, I think, is kind of how it works, or a gang leader, something like that. So they're supposed to rise to the top ranks at the school, like, in no time. And so this sister actually really likes to fight, and so she ends up going in his place, but she's thrown into it not knowing anything. So it's like an Otome game, where it's a reverse harem. All the guys like her, but they don't know why, because they think she's a dude, and it's just fun. It plays with some tropes that I really like. It's just fun shenanigans. It's only the 2 volumes long, so I do suggest picking it up if that sounds interesting to you at all. Next, I continued on in Say I Love You. So I read volume 3 and Volume 4. I continue to love my read of this series. I had watched the anime and loved it, so I really like going back and revisiting this story in this format. I feel like I'm getting more out of it this way. I don't know if stuff was cut out of the anime, that very well could be, but I'm really enjoying my foray into Say I Love You. I've got 2 more here, and then we've got a series that I've binged, and I'm sure none of you are surprised as to what that is. Anyway, so first off, we've got Everyone's Getting Married Volume 2. This is about 2 grown adults. The girl wants to get married, the guy does not. Even though they know this going into a relationship, they decide to have a relationship anyway. So it's really interesting to watch the ups and downs of their relationships. This is a josei series, so you are dealing with some mature and adult things within it, as opposed to some of my other shoujo titles that you would come across. So definitely know that going in, but it's really a good time. I'm really enjoying this. Our characters are flawed in their own ways, and they're not pulling the punches in this series so far, and I'm really liking that. And then next up we have Love in Focus by Yoko Nogiri. I have a whole first impressions video about this particular volume, so I will definitely leave that linked for you so you guys can get some more details on this particular volume there. Alrighty, so nobody's surprised here, but I read a lot of Yona of the Dawn this month. And so I read volumes 2 through 12 of Yona of the Dawn. Yona of the Dawn makes my heart happy in lots of ways. This is a fantastic fantasy shoujo series in which we're following Yona. Yona is a 16-year-old girl who watches her cousin that she's in love with run her father through with the sword for the throne. And then she goes on the run with the captain of the guard named Hawk. And we follow Yona on her journey, and I'm not going to tell you anymore. Go check out my video if you want a little bit more of my thoughts and feelings, but just know, he's my baby. I loves him. Okay, friends, I believe that is everything. No, it's not. Hold on. So I was approved through NetGalley for a bunch of Harlequin manga. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I said Harlequin manga. So my smutty heart was really happy to have gotten approved for these. So let me run through these. So we've got Pretend Engagement, A Groom Worth Waiting For, Zane the Wild One, Husband by Contract, The Unwilling Bride, Passion Becomes You, and Captured by the Sheik. All of these I ended up giving between 3 and 4 stars. They're all really fun. They definitely fall into those old Harlequin romance tropes. So if those bother you, definitely steer clear. But I sure had a good time reading these. They were really fun. I don't know that I would pick up any more than these. The art is fantastically beautiful in all of them, so I really enjoyed the artwork. But yeah, the stories were just okay. And the art was pretty. But there are other series where it's got better stories and just as pretty of art. So I'm not sure I will continue to request or ask or collect these. So just know that about these particular things, but if you're wanting to try one, definitely do. I really enjoyed my foray into the Harlequin manga that I tried, so yes, take that for what you will. And that is really it this time, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know what your favorite read of the month of March was. Mine was definitely Yona of the Dawn and A Curse So Dark and Lonely. Those were my favorite things this month, for sure. I'm sure you'll see more in my Otaku Monthly Favorites, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.